Hey everybody, welcome to Swedenborgian Life Live. We are psyched that you're here with us, and today we're going to be talking about how did Jesus do his healing miracles? Yeah, man, they'll dig into some major questions around the whole religiosity thing, not just Christianity and these supernatural events, and could they have occurred, and why, and what's the point of them, and all that kind of stuff. My name is Chris Schultz, and I'll be your host. With me, I'm very pleased to announce, is Dr. Jonathan Rose.
Hey everybody.
Series editor, it even says, of the New Century Edition translation of a
That's great. I got an upgrade.
Appreciate you giving some of your time here. Yep. So it went from intern to that just overnight here. So what we are going to be doing is asking you for your likes and subscriptions. This is a good way for us to endear ourselves to YouTube's algorithm. It's also a way for you to show, I like what's happening, and to provide tangible support, because we even look at those and we say, people like us, people don't like us. And either way, we're grateful that anyone chose to take the time to do it. Hey, there's an elevator pitch coming up. This is serious business.
You didn't tell me about that.
This is the most intimidating part of the show for us, I would say, and this is where you, friendly people, but what you're going to do is suggest a topic, some slice of Swedenborg's worldview that you may be fuzzy on, or you want to hear somebody scramble to talk about when they haven't prepared for it in 60 seconds to explain the whole thing and its relevance. Get those in the chat now. Ask other people in the chat if you don't get what those are. We'll get there. I can't just take too long in this intro that people are going to lose interest. They're going to click away. We had a show. The setup why we're doing this show about Jesus' miracles. We had a show not so long ago that was where we were going through the book Spiritual Experiences, or the series with his journal of it. And in there, that was the last in this long series of all of his books, and we asked you guys, if you could have Swedenborg write one more book, what would it be? And Pamela had this: how Jesus did the miracles he did, and if people can still heal with energy now.
Whoa.
So we're going to hope that some of our conversation spins off into the kind of things that could equip us for the second half of the sentence. The first half, we got a lot of stuff about that, and we're glad you asked. So let's start getting into that frame of mind now. Let's prime ourselves with a question that's on topic in a segment that we call Icebreaker. Do you feel like you got a word in edgewise in that?
I did. Yeah.
Initial segment. Okay, because I was just like, okay, good. I'm talking through this, but I was like, I wonder if Jonathan got to say anything. I'll let you read the question.
I feel well represented.
You want to read the question?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Here's the question that's going to lead us into it.
Is there something about life, or about your own life, that might seem ordinary to others, but to you it seems miraculous?
Great question. So you can tell we're talking about miracles, and we're trying to connect it to the things that happen every day. Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, well, there are a number of things. There's been some changes in my life where there's been times where I've been stuck in bad habits and things, and where I really thought I could never get out of that. And then I've been able to, through prayer and changing my life and stuff like that, find a way out. And it just felt miraculous to not to have desires that you used to have or stuff, just, wow, how does that happen? Something that I felt really powerless about, and then all of a sudden, it's okay. It's not an issue in the same way. And but even in a little thing, I recently just sliced my thumb pretty badly on something. It cut pretty deep.
Yikes.
And it just healed up. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing how, what is going on? I had nothing to do with that. I tried to take care of it, keep it clean, just put a Band-Aid on it now and then or something like that. But basically, I didn't know if I was doing it right or not.
Yeah.
And it just amazingly kind of made itself better over time, and now it's fine. It feels great.
So relating to the first thing you said about bad habits and I can break them, it seems that if the system always works, it's hard to find it miraculous. I think about cell phones and this, they can just deliver this
That's a great
amazing amount of data. As soon as it doesn't work, though, I realize how would this ever work?
Yeah.
And so I feel like for me, with the concepts of Swedenborg in there sort of arming me about the idea that I'm relatively almost like a small player in the way that mental states and things play out, that you need power from heaven to overcome things. For me, and then combine that with having to really observe thoughts and feelings just to cope day to day with a, chronically negative mindset. I've definitely had times when there's some ideas or issues that used to beat me back, and then I suddenly have ammo against them, or they suddenly don't have their bite, or I get some new way of thinking that I've been running in circles around this thing, and then going nowhere, and then just this little thought, and I just do feel like, hallelujah, like that's a miracle. And it's only after the system not working so much that you feel like that's something.
Yeah, it's a great point about things that work all the time that you tend to get to the point where you take it for granted. And I love, just a related thought, is I love it when you're working on something and you're stuck and then bing, maybe in a dream or when you wake up in the morning or something, or you're just taking a shower and pop, it's miraculous. It's amazing. It wasn't there a minute ago. All of a sudden it's there in your mind. How does that work?
You got to wait for it. Well, this is I was watching a movie about someone trying to figure out if there's aliens or not. It was a scripted, it was fiction.
Right.
But he used this mathematician, and he saw this other mathematician, and she was like, well, you can't rush it. You just got to wait for it. Everyone gets this inspiration and stuff. I won't ruin the story, but something happens. Okay, we're equipped now. Now that we've got that in mind, we have this quest to think about how did Jesus do his healing miracles, and we're going to touch on why as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure you told people to put their answers into anything they have to say.
Oh, of the icebreaker. So. No, I didn't say that.
Really? I couldn't remember.
What's your answer to the question? The question, is there something about life or about your own life that might seem ordinary to others, but to you it seems miraculous if this is your first time here? Write that in at the end of the show. We are going to put it there. Okay, good. Thanks for the heads up. Now, let's begin to set up our mission here with the section we call the setup. So are there still miracles today? I mean, sort of implicit in that question. She mentioned particularly these healing kind of
energy healing.
But I would say overall, there's definitely recorded miracles in the Bible. Do they still go on? Well, I would say that there's all kinds of amazing, unexplained things that do happen.
Yes.
But I think that a lot of that would fall under the stuff that we believe will have a coherent explanation once we can figure it out.
Right, and it just feels, and I know a lot of people talked about this over the centuries, that we're in kind of a different state than early Christianity, when even the apostles after Jesus was resurrected are raising the dead and healing people. It's like it's happening all the time.
It's really gone
speaking
downhill.
in tongues and all these amazing things that they're doing. And then it's not so much in that way, it seems like,
Yeah, so why is it, over the period of Jesus and then all through the Old Testament, there's miracles, and now we don't have nothing that's so overt that you can just point to it and say, look at that. So why does that happen? Well, it might have to do with this changing mindset that you're talking about. That there's this essential preservation of free will in people to whom they actually could accept this deeper, more subtle definitions of God rather than having their ideas forced by miracles. And there's actual real psychological consequences to having something proved to you in an undeniable way by a show of force. And we unpack that for about an hour in this Why Doesn't God Prove That He Exists, based on this awesome little treatise that Swedenborg does in Divine Providence.
It's to me, is such a nuanced point that Swedenborg makes that I've spent a lot of my life thinking, wow, if somebody just came back from the dead or, told me something, I would be sure, I'd be on board and I'd love. But Swedenborg says, no, that kind of closes the mind, and then you're in this weird situation where you're either sort of compelled to believe or you have to reject it, whereas if you kind of just sneak up on it yourself by your own volition, that's actually a better scenario. And
essential for accepting spiritual life. However, all that said, going on and on about it, Jesus Christ, according to the Gospels and accounts,
he did some stuff.
Oh man, he's doing stuff all the time. So we first want to look at those miracles. Like what was the significance? Why do those in the first place? So this is where we get to our first handy Swedenborg quote. This is Secrets of Heaven, 8364. And why these healing miracles? Why most of the time he's healing? Why? Why doesn't he do some?
Yeah, it does seem like it's 90 or 95, but occasionally he walks on the water or curses the fig tree or something. But most of it, Like there's just masses of where whole crowds come out to him.
Yeah.
He heals everybody.
Right.
It just seems like mostly healing.
You guys weren't reading ahead, right? Okay. As disease represented iniquity and evil, as disease represented, Correspondences already, iniquity and evil in people's spiritual life.
Oh, things going on in there. So the physical disease represented, it doesn't necessarily mean that they had that spiritual disease, but it represented the kind of things that people have, right?
The scourge of disease that we experience on this level is like an echo of the scourge of spiritual disease on the spiritual level that we see playing out.
But not necessarily a one-to-one relationship.
No. The diseases the Lord healed symbolize deliverance from various kinds of evil and falsity that were plaguing the church and the human race and would have brought spiritual death.
Spiritual death. Uh-oh.
Talk about that. So, is that good or bad?
That's quite a bit more serious. Yeah, the Bible says, watch out for the second death kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like physical death is not your problem. It's spiritual death. That's a serious thing to not, try to avoid if you can.
Yeah, so, and for those of you who aren't familiar, hell, the state of mind called hell when you love evil and falsely, that's spiritual death.
That's spiritual death. That's what he's talking about.
And I just want to say...
You don't actually die. But it's just that your heart loves doing harm and your mind loves lies and stuff like that.
Which, from a spiritual perspective, has no real life in it.
It has no life in it.
And to back up to the point of just because you have a disease doesn't mean that you have the spiritual affliction that goes with it. The prophets, Swedenborg says that the prophets all throughout the Old Testament would have to go do things like lie on the ground for 3 days and put a donkey on your head. I don't remember exactly what it was. Right. That was to represent the state of the degradation of the church in people's hearts and minds. Doesn't mean that prophet was particularly evil, but they were representing it.
But it's manifest. So much of God's agenda seems to be to reveal what we can't see.
Yeah, right.
Here, let me show you what's going on.
Yeah. So this is because what makes divine... Okay, so they brought spiritual death, and this is talking about why he did those. This is because what makes divine miracles different from other miracles, we got two categories, is the fact that states of the church and of the heavenly kingdom are wrapped up in them and are their focus.
I wonder if he's partly playing off that idea in the Old Testament where Moses goes and he does, he turns his rod into a serpent and back, but then the magicians of Pharaoh do the same thing, so some of them are sort of like these divinely ordained miracles, but then there's other ones that are done for different reasons or something.
And the divine miracles, it almost seems like the power, sure, there's this amazing thing that's happened, but that's not the most important thing going on. Because you can, these other miracles, maybe somehow other people could use the same mechanism to do even a similar, something of similar amazing power, seemingly. But what makes something divine? They represent states of the church and the heavenly kingdom, and are focused on that. That's a weird thing. You wouldn't expect that.
Almost like a teaching tool or something.
Yeah. Okay. So for this reason, the Lord's miracles consisted mainly in the healing of sickness. So he couldn't just go do anything.
Because part of his mission was to address these spiritual ills, right? And so that's why he did a whole lot of showing, look, here's what this looks like, and doing these physical healings.
Because you could say, so why is he doing this? Is it sure, it helped a couple of people. Is it to gain attention? Why? But these were all very strategic acts that were setting the spiritual groundwork, the correspondential groundwork for it all for his actual mission to be accomplished.
Right.
And the ailments that Jesus healed corresponded, those single instances that he did on earth of physical healing, all corresponded to the spiritual ailments that his life and teachings and his spiritual mission would heal in all of us over time.
It's just so amazing. He never seems to be just doing the thing that he's doing. He's also doing it at a meta level. It's saying, I just love that.
Yeah, he's awesome. Playing chess.
Yeah,
I heard that
three-dimensional chess.
That's something that I saw this thing online. It's like, I was playing chess, said so-and-so, which is not someone who's ever... No one says that when they're actually playing chess. Like if you have to say you're playing chess, you're probably not really doing that great.
That's right.
So we want to say, let's look at some of these ailments and what do they correspond to. Thanks to the Bernathen Cathedral, who let us actually fly a drone up and take pictures of these cool stained glass windows that were up there. We may put out a little behind the scenes clip at some point. So on Patreon, bernathenchurch.org/cathedral, check them out. Here's the things that Jesus healed and what they mean according to Swedenborg.
Oh, okay.
So here's the Correspondences. He healed people who are lame. What is it to be spiritually lame?
Swedenborg says that that's being governed by goodness, like you've got goodness, your heart is good, you want to help people, but lacking truth to direct that goodness. So you don't know where, you got a good heart, but you kind of don't know where to put your energy. You're kind of stuck or stumbling in what you do.
So Jesus is like unlocking this big vat of human potential that's been stymied by not having the right marching orders.
Yeah, let me help you with that kind of thing. You know, I think I can get you moving so that good heart can manifest in a really effective way.
Isn't there plenty of people who want to do the right thing? They want to help the world, but they don't know where to start.
But they feel like, well, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I can do to help. Yeah.
Okay, leprosy. An iconic biblical disease.
That's right. Comes up a lot.
What does that correspond to?
Corruption of holy things. So I think it's almost like stuff that's holy that should be healthy in your life has become kind of disgusting and got all messed up. So he wanted to fix that. Let's get holy back.
Yeah.
Right.
There's got to be some shade in there of the way that people will use religious principles to do harm. I'm thinking about how he was so concerned with calling out the scribes and Pharisees because they had taken people's natural inclination toward God, wanting to learn about God and live a good life, and use that to manipulate people and get people to hate each other and all this kind of stuff.
So the idea is that it's infectious, or like it'll poison other people.
And there's probably that on the internal level as well. Whenever we take the stuff that we in other people, if we manipulate their innocence or whatever it is, this is corruption of holy things.
Right. And the Lord's kind of saying, "Hey, I can help you with that. I can fix that.
I can take care of that." Okay, so let's look at the next one. This blind, the very, very famous stories of him healing blind people.
Great stories about that. So
what's that?
Swedenborg says that there's a passage in Ephesians that says, having the eyes of your understanding enlightened. And so the eyes correspond to this understanding. Yeah. And so it's having incorrect ideas. Like, again, how do you function if you're not seeing reality in a mental way?
Yes.
You know?
Well, like on a very sort of literal sense of the Bible level, you've heard it said, hate your enemies, but I'm saying be nice to your enemies.
Yeah.
This is a new idea.
That's quite an update to the program. Yeah.
What about deaf?
Okay, Swedenborg says this means that you have no ability to perceive and obey the truth, which is a serious problem. You know, if you can't tell truth when it's right in front of you speaking to you.
Yes.
Can't hear that.
You don't recognize it.
And you don't recognize it, you don't perceive it, and you can't obey it, because I hear and I obey, it says in Scripture, right?
Okay, let's do one more slide here. Healing by means of touch. Jesus would lay on hands.
And a lot of these things that he was healing was touch. That's what he did. And Swedenborg says that means that Jesus was transferring what was his own, basically meaning his love, his wisdom, to the human race. Here, have some of my, take some of my love, and that's why touch was involved in so many, not 100%, but an awful lot of the healings.
And then there's this whole kerfuffle about the Sabbath, thinking you heal on the Sabbath, and Jesus says it's all right.
And people are upset.
Hey, that's not
you
the
shouldn't
rules,
do work
man.
on the Sabbath.
What is that all about?
Yeah, well, it's interesting that God heals us by uniting goodness and truth in our lives. That Sabbath day is when goodness and truth come together. And I also think it means the Sabbath is the seventh day of the week. It's like the seventh day of creation when there's rest at the end, and it's a kind of a heavenly state. So you may not get healed on day 1 or day 2 or day 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but eventually the goodness and truth will come together, and there'll be a big healing for us. So I think that's what healing on the Sabbath, why he seemed to like that day the best for healing.
It was all about it. So we have a setup. We know why he was doing these miracles. Okay. It was about the Correspondences and this like sort of ultimate or outermost level that would hold within it the spiritual healing that he was going to do. But how is why we're here.
Right, and I love the fact that he would, just as long as we're on the why, that he would not only do something that's going to help that person very much, just get rid of this problem in 5 minutes, gone.
I would volunteer for that.
But that's right. It's awesome. But he's also playing a deep, multi-dimensional game where he's saying this is not a game, but this will stand for something that I want to do to tons of people through the Spirit. So let's act that out just in a simple way here with your physical deafness. But I'm saying this is going to happen on a big scale.
And when he's doing that, he's like wiring in electrodes or something. Even in that act, he had to do those things to set the spiritual, physical conditions that would allow for this great spiritual healing. I don't know exactly how, but each one of those was like a little tactical strike.
Yeah.
Okay, so we know why. We know that it was cool.
That's important.
And now, though, people paid their money and came here for the how.
Didn't they?
So let's see how we try to explain the how in our 3 seeds section. The way the 3 seeds works is we give you 3 thoughts, and you take them in and let them grow in your minds. And this should hopefully lead to a garden of understanding around this whole thing. Okay.
That was beautiful.
Metaphor taken too far. God's power, this is an important mechanism for understanding the context of these miracles. God's power is applied through truth. Swedenborg talks about this in Secrets of Heaven. All divine power, and we're starting to talk about the broad system, which is a little foreshadowing that miracles happen within this. All divine power comes through truth emanating from the Lord. This truth has created everything. As stated in John, everything was made by the Word, and nothing that was made without Him. So even God needs a medium through which to exercise power. Even though divine truth is another part of God, there are different parts. The Word is the Lord in respect to divine truth. Okay. Through this truth, He brings to order to everything in heaven and in hell.
And in hell.
Which
is pretty astonishing.
Yeah.
I mean, you think it's just being crazy chaos, but no, there's order. The Word has the power to do that.
Nobody, if we just did a show here on the internet and said, there's an order to things operate by order, nobody's going to fight us on that. Everybody knows, every discipline knows there's order. That's right, everything. And what I think what throws people about the Scriptures of miracles, they say, you're just going to not have order?
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah, miracles appear to happen outside of the ordinary order of things. And that's why what was that?
Yeah.
How does that fit?
And why is everything else going to play by the rules, but you just jump out and just do something arbitrarily?
You got a special coupon where you can just break the rules and do something.
So, let's see how we get through this. Through this truth, He brings order to everything in heaven and hell. It is also the source of all order on earth. And so that means even
it almost
physical
sounds like
stuff.
in nature,
gravity,
everything, gravity, etc.
What are the other orders? I don't know. Gravity's the only one I know.
And oxygen. I think those are the 2 main ones.
Gravity, telemarketing. It accomplished, and look at this next sentence. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves that we've missed this. It accomplished all the miracles.
Divine truth.
The same
divine truth. Because when you see Him do it, you don't always see that. It's just like He's laying on hands and then somehow magically they're better. But He's telling us the mechanism behind it. That was divine truth that did that.
The same thing that creates these laws in the physical world that are so consistent is the thing that made these miracles happen. They are part of the same system.
They're part of the order.
They're part of the same system. So,
in
short, divine truth contains all power, so that in fact it is power itself.
Whoa, that's a heady statement.
In the other life, there are some, and this is a cool little tangent we can go on. There are some who possess more truth than others. This gives them so much power that they can go anywhere in the hells without danger.
Wow. That's amazing. Almost like that truth is a shield for them. So how does that work?
At their presence, the inhabitants of the hells flee in every direction. So there you have an instance.
So it's not just sort of like they're in their bubble suit or something like that. Yeah. No, it's like they just show up knowing what they know, and everybody scatters because that truth is so powerful.
Right. So
nobody wants to mess with it.
Doesn't sound like it. And so a couple of cool things about that. One is there you have truth, which you think of as just a concept in the mind, having an overt impact on external reality. Now, this is the spiritual world he's talking about, but still, something about those people having the divine truth wired into them directly affects the proximity of evil spirits.
So it's almost like on that physical level, that divine truth is sort of kicking out the equivalent of the evil spirits in your body, like just off you go, you know?
Yes.
It's so powerful, it just can't stand in the presence of that.
So he's saying all the miracles were accomplished by it, so somehow, that...
And it's the same thing that created everything, so it's not a cheat, it's not a backdoor or something,
No.
It's built in.
Everything else is a relative backdoor to it.
Yes,
but also, how cool is it to think you can get so loaded up with truth that hell doesn't... And sometimes I think everybody experiences that when you've got some kind of concepts that are part of the big, ocean of divine truth. Sometimes they're hitting. They're right in the right spot. Things that used to bother you, you just mow them down in your mind.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, this principle has liberated me.
I remember hearing about a law trial where there was this little impoverished individual who was going against this giant well-funded corporation. But the person just stuck to the truth, and it just carried the day.
Yeah.
That truth, like they were more powerful than this whole corporation with all the legal team and everything.
The truth will set you free. That's great. Okay, well, so there's something. I mean, do you have anything more on that?
No. I think, but that's very powerful, isn't it? It's very interesting. Yeah. And there's a particular type of truth that Swedenborg talks about that's active in miracles, and that's what we call correspondences. There's a power in correspondences. And this is what he says in Secrets of Heaven 86:15.
Seed number 2.
Correspondence is all powerful. Man, that basically gives a divine attribute to correspondence.
Divine truth is all
powerful. Because
God
is all powerful and truth is all powerful. So in fact,
correspondence must have to do with this truth.
Yes, there must be some relationship between truth and correspondence. In fact, anything that happens on earth, this is such a strange statement he makes here, in keeping with correspondence, prevails in heaven. Now you think it would go the other way, something that happens there would prevail down here because we're obviously second fiddle or something. No, he's talking about you change something on earth, boom, that changes in heaven because it happened in connection with correspondence. Yeah. Because correspondence comes from the deity with a capital D, meaning the divine or God.
Can I say something?
Yeah, please.
So what it seems to be indicating here is that earth, there's a particular power in the way things are done on earth.
Right.
And should you know the language of correspondences, you could affect the way that the whole chain flows down. So Jesus, in these miracles, maybe he is just because he's got the full knowledge of everything, he is doing whatever the correspondence of touching that person at the time under those conditions. It's like probably a million billion part system, but he knows if I push this one little thing here, I can get this thing.
Reminds me of what he says about the disciples, that what you bind on earth will be bound in heaven and what you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven.
Right.
People with a goodness based on love or on faith, it doesn't really matter whether, it doesn't only have to come from love, it could just come from your faith, are in correspondence with heaven. The people themselves are in correspondence with heaven. Amazing thought.
Yeah.
And everything that happens with them is done by the deity. Wow, that's a situation where what you do is actually being done by God because you're in correspondence with heaven. Yeah. Don't think I've ever experienced it, but it sounds nice. Sounds like a nice situation to me. Because he is the source of all the good growing out of love and all the good growing out of faith, those two things. All the miracles recorded in the Word were accomplished through correspondence. This guy's bold, isn't he? Yeah. I'll tell you how every single one of those things happened. The walking on the water, the whole thing. They were all accomplished through correspondence.
Okay. Who do you think he is? And I would say, there we have our smoking gun passage.
That is it.
Okay.
That's the core. Thank you for pointing that out.
How did Jesus do the miracles? Through correspondence.
Through
and we're hoping
correspondence.
to illuminate that.
That's right.
Expand that.
And he goes on to say that the Word, the Bible, has a great power in it that we don't realize. The Word was written in such a way that everything in it, down to the smallest particular, corresponds to something in heaven. As a consequence, the Word has divine force. There's divine power in Scripture. It unites heaven with earth because when it is read on earth, same deal, right? Here's how earth affects heaven. Angels in heaven feel moved at the holy content of the inner meaning. The correspondence of everything in the Word is what accomplishes it. So that's how you do something on earth, and it actually changes things in heaven, and the Bible is some key to that, and correspondences.
Not a small detail that all these healing miracles that Jesus did, that we know about, were written in the Word. And that this is part of, I got to do this thing now, so it will be, assuming you trust the process, that's an accurate process.
It will be written, yeah.
And that's part of it. That's somehow
part of it.
That Swedenborg, he started his whole spiritual writing thing painstakingly in 1 billion volumes, going through the beginning of the Word.
That's right.
And saying this is how this corresponds, this is how this corresponds, because he is saying this, you don't understand how powerful this book, which a lot of people have reverence for, but is really not unlocked at all in proportion to how it could be. So part of this, Jesus doing these miracles, is to get that written in the Word.
And the suggestion in that is staggering, which is that Jesus, to put it that way, is still alive and in the Bible there doing miracles.
Yeah.
And you put your head in that book from time to time, it can do the same kind of things to you that he did physically, but to your spirit. It can heal you.
And even interesting that even if we read perplexing, seemingly inert things in there, that angels are getting what it really is talking about.
Yeah.
And that changes things for them.
And they're with you, and they can do stuff, Right. So you put yourself in the opposite of harm's way. What's that called?
Help's way, healing's way, good things way. Why isn't there a saying for that, right?
There should be a saying for that.
Is that because harm comes by us more easily and more often?
I don't know why that is.
There's a little-known book Swedenborg did called Miracles and Signs. I mean, I barely know what it is. Okay, so no, you have heard of it, or else it doesn't exist.
Okay.
But this is called Miracles and Signs, where he talks about divine miracles actually do still happen, but in a different way. Dun, 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 dun.
Whoa.
The divine miracles which take place today are not manifest, but hidden.
Now hold the phone for a second. He said there, he didn't say what I expected him to say. It was like, divine miracles don't happen anymore. There may be other miracles, but they're not divine miracles.
Yeah.
But he didn't say that. He said the divine miracles which take place today. Like there are some, but they're not manifest. They're hidden. They're not sort of downtown in front of everybody with the cameras rolling.
Yeah.
They're more covert.
And didn't we just learn that divine miracles have to do with the portrayal of the heavens in the church? So he's saying that those sorts of connecting acts do still happen.
Are still happening.
In the course of their occurrence, there are many happenings which, because they do not appear as miracles, are ascribed to chance, to prudence, or to nature, except by those who acknowledge divine providence in every single event.
So part of their cloak or their disguise is that they're things that look like, that was chance.
It was luck.
Yeah, just happened to bump into so-and-so.
Yeah, that's right. But it's so fascinating that they could be seen, and it almost sounds like you could pick out that was just a miracle.
Right.
There are certain things that fall under that category.
And look at it, if you have that attitude, those who acknowledge divine providence in every single event, hey, that was a miracle what just happened.
Yeah.
So it's a perspective thing.
They are hidden for the reason already stated, in order that, and this is a very cool line here, in order that those minds should not be influenced inopportunely, whose interiors the Lord is preparing for receiving good and truth.
Wow. So there's like people in line for moving in this positive direction, and it would be the wrong way to get them in the door to have a big miracle bust in and, force them into belief or something, right?
Because I know at the beginning of the show when we said God doesn't do miracles because it would take away free will, that you were all saying that's a cop-out, that just is because God is not real. But,
that's right.
I mean, doesn't that make it seem a little more, at least there'd be a plausible motive for that. Preparing for receiving goodness and truth is a process that is as complex and fragile and specific as everything biological that goes on.
Yeah.
You can't just rush that stuff or skip steps. To do that is all the million billion, that's the second time I've used that phrase, pieces have to line up just right in order for you to think thoughts and grow from a little kid into a grown-up.
Divine wisdom to know how to get you through the million steps.
And so, if you're prepping somebody to slowly, in their freedom, buy what they love, with the world experience, little thing, to in freedom grab goodness and truth, just to blast this thing in there, couldn't that mess up a process?
Kind of forces,
even
kind of
if
shoves them ahead a few grades or something.
Because it's not about what you believe. It doesn't matter if that made you think that God exists.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you believe that or not. What matters is your acceptance of love and truth.
The mechanism of how you opt in. How did you opt in?
Yeah. And truth that it feels like your own because you weighed it yourself. That's what was in that other show. Okay. All that talking on a semicolon.
Yeah.
But that they should be in freedom, that they should receive their faith from an interior affection. There it is.
See, there it is.
There it is.
So interior affection to me means that your own heart sort of came out and said, I think I'm ready for this. I'm ready. I can see this now, or something.
Yes.
Like you love it. You're opting in. It's not forced on you by some big dramatic event that happened right in front of your face or something.
That's exactly right. It's not because I had to believe this, because I love this idea in the free market of ideas. This is the one I choose.
I'm drawn to this. People say, you're like, I'm drawn to this. Not that I was shoved into this.
Yes, that's the only thing that stays with you eternally.
Yeah.
That is why the Lord said to Thomas, because thou hast seen me, Thomas, thou hast believed. Blessed are they who do not see and yet believe.
Yeah, Thomas, if people remember the Bible story, he needed to see the holes, put his finger in the holes, and he said, I'm not going to believe unless and so Jesus said, well, that's good, now you've got faith, but blessed are people who get there without having to have that concrete evidence or something to sort of bust the denial.
So why is God setting it up now so that we get there that way instead of through the miracles? Because it's better for you, and the whole point of everything is to give us what's better for us.
It's almost like there was a time when people, no offense, but there was a time when the only thing that would grab people is blast right in the face, kind of, oh, there's a huge miracle or something like that, just to get the ball rolling. But now people think about things and can consider for themselves in a different, in a deeper way, hopefully, and so they can opt in, and that's better. It
doesn't sound too unbelievable that in the past 2,000 years we have a very different sort of mindset than we used to. Things like human rights, the kind of education we have. There's just I would believe that we're in a different kind of state of accepting than we were 2,000 years ago.
Just the nature of the mind and stuff like that. Yeah.
So if Swedenborg is asserting that miracles are happening, but they can look just like it's nature, it's chance. To answer sort of the second half of this, can there still be miraculous healings by people through things like even energy and the laying on of hands?
The divine category of miracles.
Right.
Yeah.
I would think, every healing has got to happen through divine truth, because that's the mechanism by which order.
That's what the man said.
So when you cut your thumb up, yes, it's cells making proteins and whatever else they make, the little
fighting the bacteria or whatever it is.
Building those. I remember seeing the diagram of how a wound heals in the biology textbook, and it makes these, I can't remember what they're called, these little chains of proteins.
There was a ridge there for a while or something, but the ridge is not in there. It's amazing.
If you want to ask us any biology questions, we're here.
Please, we're ready. We're here for you.
Yes. If you're working on a paper you want published. But my point is that is... The thing that Swedenborg is asserting is that there's divine truth in that, and it could be that there are times people say the doctors don't know how you healed or something. It could be I don't know what the difference, the lining up of correspondential planes is to where this divine power can rush right in a more effective way that we would call miracle. That could be there.
Right, and in a way, all different kinds of healing is striking me because of what we just read would have something of that divine power in them.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing is that just the fact of substances, of chemicals, of these amazing things that can heal you or protect you in various ways, or that's of God. That's through the agency of nature. But it's miraculous that something will have properties.
Yeah.
That some molecule can do something.
Yeah.
I mean, that's we can't make it do that. It's pretty astonishing that things are the way they are. And I would have to say the same for maybe, like, if the question at the beginning said something about energy.
Yeah.
The whole fact of energy and vibration and so on seems to come from God. I mean, that's what animates the whole universe and why everything runs and works and everything.
When you have this interesting divide between, I don't know if this is the right terminology for it, but like Western medicine and alternative medicine.
Yeah, that's right.
And that there are some people who will swear by all kinds of alternative medicine techniques that, look, this is helping me in a way that nothing else has. So and it's not like we're going to know what works and what doesn't. If something actually is working,
if it works,
there's God in it. And
it probably lined up somehow. The
question that I don't think we can know the answer to is, there's sort of two explanations. Is it some of this stuff that you have so many all kinds of all kinds of ancient medicine, indigenous medicines, sort of modern energy healing and that kind of thing. It could be that there are these. Let's say it works. I've definitely had good experiences with it in my life. So it could be that there are these just blatant physical things that we right now aren't too keyed into, but there are subtle energy lines, and it could be that healing of those is just interacting with that. It's like you close the right circuit, like acupuncture or something like that, and that's why it works, and we'll figure it out, and it'll be just like any other kind of chemical we use now. Or is it that some healing methods do work now because it's lining up a correspondence, and that there's an inflow in that I don't know if it would be detectable in the same way by only looking at the physical. When we were running through this, we talked about the placebo effect.
Placebo effect, I was just going to say, is amazing, isn't it? Where it can get within 4% or something. Yeah. Get almost the same results through a placebo effect. So how does that?
Which is just you believing. Is that the divine, that's opening you up to heaven or something like that? Right,
and it gets to the sort of psychology, like something that I've experienced as a very healing thing sometimes is either to talk to a doctor or to talk to a friend or a loved one or something like that, or somebody who just says, you can get through this, or something. You know what I mean? Like the encouragement. Right. I sometimes feel like when you're really sick or something, there's a point at which the mind turns where it goes, I think we can beat, you get that shot of energy and you start to move. Well, that's got to be of God, because a second ago you were feeling despair and lousy and everything.
You know what? We're going to get through this show. I mean, it's just the clock is running. We'll be through it. It doesn't matter if we don't know anything.
And as far as that goes, just everybody knows that touch can be a healing thing. Just a pat on the shoulder or something can be so. You can really feel the love and support from people sometimes when they just are kindly and taking care of you, even if you're in some disgusting condition or something. It can be a nice thing.
If you want to hear a little more of us working through in an organized way this conversation around where did the physical...
I can't imagine anybody wanting more than this. But
physical and spiritual interacting. We did a whole episode on it.
Really?
It was called How Spirits Are Connected to Your Health. Okay. And this also digs more into that question of, if I have this ailment, does that mean there's something wrong with my spirit?
My spirit doing this or that?
Which we're saying it's not really. But let's slow down for a minute. Because we've had all these ideas rushing around.
We've been buzzing and buzzing.
And I just want to I want to do, take a second and try to let some of these sink in, let some of these seeds grow in our Correspondences meditation. Hadn't this whole episode been sort of a sell for Correspondences and their importance?
That's right.
And Swedenborg, and a really cool passage in the second volume of Secrets of Heaven talks about how what our eyes were meant for is to see external things in the world, yet contemplate their inner realities at the same time. And that was the original, that was the word.
Get that aligned,
People could that's why people could learn, be taught through nature and things. So what we want to look at is, we've talked about God's miraculous power in healing. So and in other aspects of life, that anything that's good could have this divine power in it. So we're going to show you some images of things growing, things healing, people being kind to each other. Just think of this as, where's the miracle in that? Let anything from these seeds, do you get a next level of aha or of good feeling or something? Looking at the way, not just the words sound when we talk about it, but what about the things in action? So we'll be back in a minute. The tough thing is you have to think of, okay, what do we say now, like after it comes out? But I just want to look at that rainbow for a while. I want to look at the clouds. And I think that is like the next level, that we are arming you through this conversation, but you can then see it, like there's so much more said, picture's worth 1,000 words, it's there.
Yeah, and you can feel it. To me, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think beautiful images.
So hopefully that stirred something in you and let this stuff settle just a little bit deeper. Before we move on to our elevator pitch section, get your topics in if you haven't already. Let's just recapsule this whole thing. What's the takeaway? What do we want people coming out of this with? What was this all for? What was this all about?
What I find myself thinking about is Jesus' intent. Like I picture what was in his heart and mind when he was approaching people and healing them. And he was doing a multi-layered thing. He's fixing the body, and that's great, needs help, and that's what people are conscious of. It's like, my leg's not working, or my ears don't work, or whatever. Right. But he's also saying, and I can do this on levels you can hardly even imagine. There's so much healing power here. And he also taught his disciples how to do those healings. So I don't have clarity about all of it, but I think that intent, that love, those beautiful images of love that we saw there, combined with truth and wisdom about correspondences, can definitely change our world in that way, that it reflects that divine heart and wisdom, that divine heart and mind to change us. That's too long a takeaway, but
You want to run it again? No, that's great. And it inspired me to think of Jesus can be in one place doing one healing miracle, but divine truth can be everywhere.
Everywhere.
So let's be conduits for that to happen. And if the promise is that divine truth can do that kind of stuff, think about what the world could be like.
Yeah, and I love the idea that if you have that inner affection or whatever it talked about, if you get to that point where your heart and mind opt in, then I think there's no limit to what seems miraculous to you in a positive way.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they say, bumblebees can't, aerodynamically, they can't fly, or there's no way for water to get above the height of the air pressure. It couldn't go higher than 39 inches up a tree, the sap, and yet it'll get to the top of a 300-foot tree in the Amazon rainforest. Or there's lots of things about healing, about the fact that birds and animals know what to eat, or how to reproduce, all this stuff. Like, there's tremendous wisdom all around us in the world, and miracles about the divine love, but they look just like ordinary everyday stuff, like you were saying about the cell phone. They're just like, we take it for granted.
And what are we all trying to do? We're all trying to be entertained, right? We are going and watching these movies that just take a ton of money to put together. We're trying to find things that interest us. We're even, in some cases, watching shows on YouTube to try to be entertained. When yet, it's just a lot of that searching is because we're so numb to how cool things actually are. Even your little plant that we know exactly how it does everything. Sometimes you get this like, what is this? This thing is alive on its own, and it's like growing on its own.
Bud there.
And you just look at this little green tube that's so amazingly, satisfyingly made. That this is what babies have, is they know everything is amazing and they're always happy.
Right.
And we can maybe get back into that state. Okay, let's move on here, because it's time now. Everything was great, but now it's time for the elevator pitch. So we're sitting here trying to talk about this new way to see the world. And it's a big mind upgrade. What we talked about tonight, all this Swedenborg stuff, though, is it's a very cool way to see the world. But there's a lot of thinking and changing and concepts to chew over. And also there's the issue of, how do you ever talk about this to somebody if they want to say, what's that weird thing you've been watching? And who's a Sweden what? And what's this stuff? And correspond who? Yeah. So you're going to see us in real time try to imagine that we're having that conversation. It's good practice for us to really chew over what is important about this stuff, and can we condense it if there really is a simple truth behind it. So you've all submitted your topics. We are now going to do the elevator pitch. Oh, we didn't decide who's going to go first. Do you want to go first for a second?
I'll go first.
Okay, great. Dr. Jonathan Rose will be going first, and the first topic that all of you suggested is this one. Innocence. Hey, that's a good one. Okay, so we're walking onto an elevator, and I say, hey, aren't you Dr. Jonathan Rose from that show that I'm also on? What's this thing? So I've heard a little bit about this, but what's this, what is innocence, and how does that play in, and is it the same?
Well, innocence is something that people talk about. It's associated with little children and so on. You say, they have, and you worry about, like the loss of innocence that happens as people grow up and so on. But there's an interesting definition that this guy named Swedenborg had of innocence, which is that it's a willingness to be led by the Lord. And what children have is just kind of a reflection of that. But there's actually something that adults can have that's called innocence. And actually it's very, very important, because it's that kind of humility to look to something outside yourself. Some people have that sort of strong feeling of like, I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going, But innocence is something that we actually need in this world, because it's an openness to heaven, an openness to see the miracles that we've been talking about in this show. And we can have kind of that second childhood where everything seems alive.
Very beautiful. I was just thinking, as you were saying it, like, this is a miracle. Because if you think about it, like, you didn't know that was going to be that. And you didn't have time to plan that out. But I know the feeling of doing it, where you're just like, well, now I'm talking, and now I'm saying this, and now this is really the feeling all of us get when we're talking through something that we're passionate about. You're just on this conveyor belt, and I just was seeing you there, like, something's coming in and just putting these together, and they've got sentence structure, and you're moving from point to point, right?
Oh, the fact that it comes out in coherent sentences, if it did, now is amazing.
For contrast, for what's not a miracle, we're going to see how mine ends up here. So, great job. That was a great description of this
great
particular
topic.
Spin on it.
That's nice to think about.
Let's see what mine's going to be tonight. Prayer. Okay, let's start up the elevator. 3, 2. Hey, don't you want to know about prayer? So what are you trying to do if you pray? I mean, this is in religious traditions all over. Are we trying to tell God, wait, please change your mind, I'm smarter than you? Or are we trying to tell God, hey, just please favor me over this other person, I put in a lot more time? What is the prayer thing? Why would it accomplish? And yet, it is part of all these traditions. And even within Swedenborg's worldview, it's very important. What prayer is doing is us creating the conditions inside ourselves for God to do the change that he wants to do in us. That's the power of what prayer is, because the essential of prayer is you're asking. for something. You're talking to God. Prayer is just speech with God. And in it, you're acknowledging, usually, look, there's something beyond my bounds of being able to do. Will you help me with it? Or you're saying, what do you want to do? This is us actually quieting our own raging self-will to say, do you have a better sense of where things should go? And when we're asking for spiritual things, humility of heart, because we look to God, He can give it without it damaging us.
Phew, you got in under the wire. The doors weren't open yet.
I wanted to say another sentence, but I won't say it.
Well, what was it?
Well, this is totally against the rules, but we can get it in without damaging us, because if God just gives us what we want without us, and this could be physically, but mostly like spiritual.
Without us asking.
The most potent part is that we're acknowledging the source. Acknowledging that God is the source of good is the core of that innocence you were talking about. So it's like we want this thing for, the real gift is that we understand how we got that thing. So that's like what prayer can do.
I was thinking while you were talking about it that there's a real relationship that I hadn't noticed before between innocence and prayer, because I think there's something innocent about prayer.
Yeah.
You know, that you're sort of saying, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I'm looking to you. And I love the idea that there are certain things that when you enter that state of prayer that are then can be implanted in your heart, you know, desires like good feelings toward people or some truth or insight or something that you've opened yourself up to allow the angels to come in. That was very good, I thought.
Thanks. And Swedenborg generally says that asking for spiritual things, which would be a more loving attitude or a more clear understanding of something, that's what you can really get.
It's going to work better than just praying for money or something.
I want
like
a car
or
something. How do you know that that's the best thing? God's not going to give you something that's not the best thing. And how do you know you need it more than another person?
Right.
Let's move on here because we promised at the beginning. I forgot to promise, but then you reminded me that, hey, we want to hear your answers on our opening question, which now our opening question is very relevant to the, funny how that was set up, to our discussion here. Let's hear what you all had to say in the ice melter.
Take the middle one?
Yeah. Okay, let's go. Let's see what you all had to say. If for context, this was the question, is there something about life or about your own life that might seem ordinary to others, but to you it seems miraculous? And if you're watching this after the fact and you couldn't put it in the chat now, we still want to see your answer in the comments because we want to know, how are people picking up on these miracles?
Oh, it's so great to find out.
Did you catch some that we missed? Yeah, right. Okay, so this is what you all had to say. Finding this channel. Okay. My marriage, Daffodil. My health. My granddaughter.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, John. The fact that I'm alive after contracting cerebral spinal meningitis as a baby in 1955.
Whoa.
I was called the miracle baby by all the nurses at the hospital.
That's right.
And what a miracle that now Pete's out there doing stuff as his whole life that's affecting people. And
yeah.
I think everything around is miraculous. The more I learn, the more I am amazed. From how a plant knows which way is up, how ATP is produced in the ETC, no one can explain it. It's from
That's right. It still amazes me as miraculous that there is something here instead of nothing. You know, that's basic, but it's true. Like, how did all this get here?
Right.
I think dreams are miraculous. I've gotten some wonderful guidance at times from my dreams. I love their metaphorical language. Yeah, how does that work? The whole process that has led me to this point in life. And that's a long game. You know what I mean? The Lord is playing a long game.
You've got to see providence that's seeing providence in retrospect.
That's right. That I have a happy family life after being abducted and held captive for 6 months as a teenager.
Amazing.
Whew, yeah. Like, people wouldn't know. It just looks like an ordinary situation, but you don't know what the person's been through.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I see miracles every day when I look at the sunset or smell a flower. I see God in so many different places and things. The function of the human body in general, and more specifically the fact that 37,000 billion chemical reactions, that's just like I was saying, billion, per second take place in the human body, nonstop. I remember after going and seeing some kind of exhibit on the human body, talking to people about how you could think, oh, I'm not that great, I don't look that great, but like you are this insanely amazing thing, and that's not just a platitude, that's not just a cliche.
All you know is my ear is itchy or something.
Yeah. I know miracles happen all the time, and mine came when an angel saved my life one night when I did not listen to my intuition. being able to walk again in my spine, having perfectly spaced discs now through miraculous power.
Well, that's miraculous.
Awesome. Thank
That's
you, everybody.
Thank you.
To me, something that seems miraculous is that, you guys are interested in talking about this stuff. And that we get to share this journey with you. It's been super cool for us, beyond belief. We want to tell you more about the journey that's coming up. Quickly like and subscribe, unless you already did. That would be... I was going to tie it into the content, but I won't.
I don't know how you would have made that connection.
It would be miraculous if you did that for us. It would be a miracle, an obvious. This is like the blatant miracles if you like and subscribe. Well, another thing is that we're really grateful here is that we're a nonprofit, so everything is free that we do. So the whole way this works is people like you say, "Oh, I can support this, and I'm going to do it." So we have a quick video for you about that, and then we're going to give you some what's coming up. How this journey is about to continue.
That's right.
Please consider joining our community of sustaining supporters by going to otle.cosvox.com and setting up a recurring monthly donation at a value of your choice. Any amount helps. Our sustaining supporters are the backbone of what we do at Off the Left Eye and allow us to continue to create high-quality programming that nourishes thousands every week around the globe. Your help makes a difference.
So we got our videos that are coming out, and then a special event we want to invite you to if you're in the right place. So we'll start with this week coming up. We've got News from Heaven, our show where we dive into the Swedenborg and the life and the getting the what's the meaning of the text, and it's pretty fun. And we're going to talk about Thursday why the universe was created. So just a little one there. And then Saturday, how do I know if I'm being selfish? What's all the religious-y stuff saying, examine how do you do that in a productive way? What's the key to that? Also, we're not going to do our usual short clips this week. There's in the United States, there's a holiday coming up in the middle of the week. A lot of our staff are going to be away.
Everybody's got all lazy around.
Yeah. So we will be back the week following. We love your participation on those. Next Monday, we'll be here with our Good Question panel show where we take a lot of questions and talk through them with you. The following Monday, the next in our season of Swedenborg and Life, we're going to look at... Oops. Hey, that's actually... Okay. We'll do this instead. That is divine providence. We want to talk to you about, hey, forget what I said there. You're invited to come hang out with us in Los Angeles. Are you in the area? Can you make it? Yes.
Flesh and blood.
That's right. I will be there, and Matt will be there. It's going to be a fun time. Afternoon with Off the Left Eye at the gorgeous Wayfarers Chapel, this is a Frank Lloyd Wright national landmark to Emanuel Swedenborg, perched over the ocean on these rolling hills in the Los Angeles area.
It's gorgeous.
We're going to hang out and talk about what a city of angels would actually be like and the angelic mindset and all that stuff. That's a link in the description if you want to RSVP to that. And then the following Monday, from this Monday, we'll do this show. What is hell really like?
Yeah.
The next in the series. Because we
just heard about some order in hell tonight, didn't we?
That's right. We talked earlier in this series about what happens immediately after you die. Here's the hell option and why it's there, what the order in hell is. Important to understanding all of Swedenborg's theology.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good one.
Thanks for hanging out today, man.
That was so fun, Curtis.
Thanks to all of you, and we will see you again very soon.
Swedenborg and Life Live is Curtis Childs, host and showrunner, with co-host Jonathan Rose. Live stream tech and graphics by Stuart Farmer and Matthew Childs. Show writing and chat moderation by Karin Childs and Chelsea Odner.